Hello and welcome to a new installment of our quarterly Diablo 4 developer updates. We enjoyed hearing your thoughts on our last blog and have followed many of the discussions it kicked off within the community. It's very encouraging for us to hear that you appreciate the steady update, cadence, and the behind-the-scenes look at our early work. We're also excited by all the positive reactions we're seeing to the art cinematics and the addition of open-world gameplay to the Diablo franchise. The team has poured over a lot of the constructive feedback regarding the current direction of itemization, and we're looking to give you an update on items later in the year. Some of the progress we've made will speak directly to the questions we've seen raised in the community, so stay tuned. Couldn't be more excited to share the details in today's update. Our lead systems designer, David Kim, will take us on a deep dive into the ins and outs of the new skills and talents system. We are currently playtesting the new systems, and the early feedback is super promising. I hope you enjoy it, and as always, we'll be following conversations on our forums as well as other community sites. Thank you for all your continued feedback and support in this journey as we make the game. Skills and talents. We're going to look at skills and talents, a topic many of you have asked about, but first a quick update on the things we've shared in our previous development blogs. Some of you let us know that the fantasy of ancestral, demonic, and angelic power just isn't cool enough in the current version of the pitch, duly noted. Another problem we identified was the ratio of effort to rewards. For example, in order to gain a specific minor bonus, players would likely have to carry around several extra pieces of gear, each with different amounts of ancestral, demonic, and angelic power on them. You would need then to constantly calculate the power levels of those items and compare it with their overall power. It felt like an excessive amount of bookkeeping for the player. However, one thing we really liked about the system was the gameplay of managing stats in meaningful ways to hit certain bonus thresholds that then make your items better suited for the playstyle you are going for. We need some more time for iteration and rework here, and look forward to sharing more on itemization in our next quarterly blog. So This is important, right? Because, for example, what I'm doing right here, let's go into Diablo. What I'm doing right here is I clear the rift, and then I go to the Rift Guardian, I stand next to the Rift Guardian, and I have to change my gear all the time. I put on canes, and then I take canes off, for example, right? And that kind of like micromanaging in the game is not really very fun, right? You constantly have to open your inventory, switch stuff, da-da-da. Now, if there was a keybind for it, that might be a different story. But in general, running around with completely different sets of powers, da-da-da-da-da, is going to make people very, very unhappy if you have to do that to play optimally. So the fact that they've called that out as a problem early in development is really huge, right? Another thing is like, sVr, are you free? Are you streaming? You want me to call you and we can discuss this together, sVr? Let me know. I don't want to run around Diablo 4 with my inventory full of items that I constantly have to switch all the time. Hi Mara, good to see you. So I'm very happy they're calling this out and going away from this bookkeeping, as they're calling it. Let me ask you, Matt, what do you think about their comment on balancing, the different amounts of angelic power with, needing to calculate and switch stuff? What I thought of right there was not only cane swapping, but also I think of in Diablo 2, if you want to play Diablo 2 optimally, you'll fill your whole inventory with charms and you can't pick anything up. It's like, that's kind of not very fun. That to me is what they were talking about. Is that how you took it? And I don't know, what's your opinion on it?
Oh, I actually didn't understand it like this. So the last time we actually heard something about ancestral, demonic, and angelic. It's essentially there's this item, it gives you plus 50 angelic, and there's a different item. If you reach a certain threshold, you're getting a bonus, right? And it leads to Like you find an upgrade for your bracers, but your bracers have 50 angelic and you need 50 angelic on them, and then you can't swap your bracers even though you have a strict upgrade, but you can't upgrade your bracers because the new ones don't have the, like say they only have 48 angelic, and then I don't know, like a different affix on your shoes don't trigger. Like you can't equip, you don't get +1 on all fire skills because you don't meet the angelic threshold, and that's like a part of bookkeeping where you sit down and it's like, so if I switch these bracers to more angelic then or less angelic, then I need extra angelic on my shoulders to still trigger the threshold on my boots, right? And then you need to ping pong around with essentially having to equip a certain amount of something to trigger something on a different item, and it feels like a lot of bookkeeping. Per se, I don't mind a system like this. I feel like we had something in Diablo 2 like this, where you needed to equip like this much dexterity, else you cannot equip this item, right? So I don't mind. Um, but yeah, I guess they didn't like it too much, and we'll see what happens on the next blog post where they will present a bit more on this end. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, so I explained it poorly, but yeah, I what you just explained is what is also how I view it. So you like that aspect. You like, you know,
Yeah.
mixing and matching it to unlock certain things and being very sneaky about it.
So I don't like the terms ancestral, dynamic, and angelic. I liked like the classic way, like intelligence, dexterity, and strength. Like you need this much strength to equip this base. You need this much dexterity to equip this base. And I think that was kind of okay. It's like I know I want to play a blah 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 base in Endgame. It should have the following rolls, and I know it needs 186 strength, right? So you can plan out your build before. But if you have like primary affixes that require like you get a random roll like +1 to fire skills, and it requires 147 angelic power, and you didn't know that in before, right? It's like you looted an item that told you need this amount of angelic power, and you didn't know that in prior, and that is something that I'm not really fond of. If I would know it in prior, that the primary affix +1 to fire always comes with a minimum of 150 angelic power, then I guess I could play around with it, and it's something that I need to plan with for the future. But if it just randomly happens and nothing could have told me that this would be the case, then oof, big F.
Yeah, so exactly what you just described is one of the comments I made on one of my previous posts with the powers. It's like for example, in like Diablo 2, you're looking for the helmet that has 2 to sorceress skills and 3 to fireball. The circlet with 2 sorceress skills, 3 to fireball, and it gives you 5 to fireball.
Mm.
In Diablo 4, if you're looking for the affix that's +3 to fireball, does it always cost one of the 3 powers? Like,
Yeah, that's what I asked it at some point, and I didn't get an answer for that one. So whether or not +3 or +2 to something is always ancestral or always demonic, or if it's randomly picked, we don't know.
right. And it exactly, I think, as you said, I am in complete agreement. If it's like totally random, like
Mm-hmm.
imagine you're planning out your wizard in Diablo 4 and you're like, all right, this is the best in slot items, and on top of that, a super ultima layer of RNG is on all the items with +3 to fireball. You also have to get the +3 to fireballs that all align with angelic power.
Yes.
That would be so,
Yes.
so, so bad, right?
So I don't think this is gonna happen because I feel like what's like if I were to be a designer, right? Like I'm not a designer, but just from a fantasy point of view, if somebody tells me he's playing a demonic Blizzard wizard, then this should be something else than somebody telling me he's playing an ancestral Blizzard wizard, right? Like the type of ancestral demonic blah 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 should somehow be deterministic in a way that you understand what it means that this person is demonic or ancestral. Like ancestral increases AoE and means plus skill points, and demonic means, I don't know, more damage and less area of effect or something. So if there's a connection where you understand that a person is specifically going demonic for a reason, then I think that's good. If it's just purely random, it's like, hey, I got this item with demonic, hence I can play it. If it would have been angelic, then I would have had to reroll. I think that's a bad thing. But like we really don't know anything in terms of items, so I guess they just mentioned this one as a refreshment, and the next blog post will cover items. This one is supposed to be skills and skill trees. So
All right, yeah, let's get more information there, but yeah, definitely some things to keep in mind. It's like another thing that could go wrong. I don't think it will, but another thing that could go wrong is, okay, we can't have it random. Okay, we're building the fireball wizard, but then they give like the helmet +3 to fireball takes demonic, and the gloves take angelic. I mean, and the chest takes ancestral. It's like you also have to build in some kind of synergy there if you're going to plan it out, right? There has to be some synergy, because it's not enough just to say, yeah, this skill is always demonic and this one's always angelic. Well, you also have to imagine, if they're going to put together a fire wizard, if you need a bonanza of all three of them, well, you're not going to be able to itemize your character that way either. All right. Legendary items. They're exploring big changes. They agree with the feedback that a character's power is currently too dependent on items. They plan to put more of a character's power pack into the character to make build choices more impactful, rather than having the majority of the player power coming from the items they have equipped. That said, it's important that we strike the right balance so that itemization choices are meaningful. So how do you feel about more power in the character, less power on items?
I think that's amazing. How it is in Diablo 3 when you're a level 70 character, you have no items, you have nothing, right? Like the entirety of your character is defined by the items that you equip in D3. Sure, you need to select some skills, but those skills are you didn't commit to them, right? You didn't like invest playtime into building your character for specific skills. You never did that. All you do is like you find specific loot, equip this loot, and it works with your character, and you select the appropriate skills. Which means the entirety of the power of your character comes from the items that you equip. If you're a level 70 character and you have like millions of paragons, you still get one shot or you don't deal damage, right? In other games, for instance in D2, that was not the case, right? Where there was some investment in your skill tree, in planning your skill tree, and selecting specific skill points, and committing to a skill. Like putting all your eggs in one basket, for instance, right? And you are scaling sufficiently well by just grinding XP and leveling up. Getting good items was a bonus to go the extra mile, to be faster than others, like to to kill the game faster, essentially, or farm faster. I like it when there is certain commitment to building a character, making skill choices, and if not the entirety, like in a perfect world, I would say that the skill system or skill tree system or how you build your character is perpendicular to your items. Like you want to scale both areas equally well, but investment into character and planning is very important to me, and I am very happy to read this line. This was one of the major culprits on BlizzCon last year. So one of the major points that a lot of people brought up, and a little game named Path of Exile was quoted very often on this end, like very often, that there's some significant investments on the skill tree that you make that like totally define your build in the same way that you do it with items. You can't have a good build with only items. You can't have a good build with only skill tree. You must equally fit in both together in a synergetic way to actually succeed. And I hope this is something that we'll see in the future in D4. That was a very long monologue, if that makes sense. We don't have that in Diablo 3, unfortunately.
No, I agree with everything that you said, and I think that the balance of power is much better defined in Diablo 2. And you're right, you hit 70. If you don't have your set, then you do no damage. Another two things to add on to that are, there are some specific things about items and the way that they scale that I think could be improved, and also some specific things about the power that comes from character that they can improve, which I think they already talked about at BlizzCon. But to talk about the items first, one thing that is to me, a little bit, what's the word? I'd say skewed or obscure is you get your 2-piece, you get like some nice bonuses. You get your 4-piece, okay, you get some nice bonuses. And then you get your 6-piece and you get like a 20,000% multiplier, right? I wish
Mm-hmm.
that it was, why couldn't it be like 5,000 for the 2-piece, 5,000 for the 4-piece, and like 10,000 for the 6-piece? So it still feels meaningful, but you aren't like completely worthless until you get your 6-piece. I feel like the the outrageous power shifts along that journey are not good. And another thing is they said that sets may not be the strongest thing, which I'm completely fine with and in favor for. I just hope that there are a little bit more steps along the way from a complete noob to a fully powerful character, right? Because it's 70, you got nothing, you got your 2-piece, you essentially have nothing, you have your 4-piece, you have kind of something, and now you murder everything with your 6-piece. So I think there's too big of a power shift in some of the stepping stones in the itemization. And another thing about how to transfer that to characters, it's done pretty well in Diablo 2, right? Between skills and your level, and you get more stat points, and those stat points are very rare and they're pretty meaningful, even as you mentioned earlier, as far as even what items you can equip. But what it shouldn't be is it shouldn't be grinding endless Paragon points to get 30,000 intelligence, so you get this outrageous multiplier, right? They said there's going to be like this infinite scaling system to keep people continuing to play, and that's fine. But I think the the game will be a lot more fun if the way that you shift the power to the character is a lot more dynamic and interesting than just spending 20,000 points into intelligence.
Yeah.
All right. So they've had very mixed feedback regarding core itemization. They're currently looking at how to best differentiate the various item qualities. Should magic quality items have higher affix stats than rare items? So, how do you feel about, so let's just say there's common, magic, rare, set, legendary, maybe that's it. Let's just say it like that. Do you have a particular way that you would like to see Diablo 4 go? Are you okay with it one being stronger than the other most of the time? Do you think it should be mixed and matched sometimes? Do you think it could be mixed and matched very often? What do you think?
So I once again have a very strong opinion on this one. I love it when the best item that you can find for your build when you play it out is a raw diamond that you loot, meaning it's a white base. With a very, very high rarity, maybe with a very, very special influence or whatever specific role it has that defines it. For instance, let's just say in Diablo 4 we have the stiletto with 20% increased attack speed, right? Which is a very rare drop, but you can still get it. It's a 1.6 dagger base with 20% increased attack speed, and you can still get it. It's a very rare drop in Diablo 3, and it's amazing for testing high breakpoints. Like, I use that dagger all the time to test ridiculously high breakpoints because it's by far the fastest weapon we have in the game. It's a rare drop and it's a white item. I only use it for testing, obviously. There's nothing I can do with it, right? But having the capability of using this specific dagger to craft on it and actually to create a good weapon with it is, to me, a lot of value. Meaning, finding a very, very rare white base and having true item progression with it, meaning I farm a set of currency or gold or whatever it is to invest time into crafting it and to progressively make it better, to progressively roll the dice such that it improves my build in some way. To me, that there's a lot of worth in it. Sure, it's amazing when you upgrade from magic to rare and it's better, and then from rare to legendary and it's better. But at some point, yes, I wish that to go past the power of legendary or mythical or anything on this end, I need to specifically craft something that is truly perfect in all outcomes for my build. And if I need to start with a white item, to me, that's a very strong fantasy. And I like that one. that something that everybody likes? Nah, not really. But I at least want to have the option. To me, that's worth a lot.
Yeah, so that to me, I'm not an expert in it at all. That to me sounds a lot like Path of Exile, where
A
people are
lot of things are definitely yes, but originally this idea is definitely from D2, where you would try to find the perfect ethereal four-socketed bases, right? For instance, for your follower, and those were very rare. Like the
make a
strongest,
fortitude.
yes, make a fortitude, make an infinity, and so on. Those items were white items on the ground, and you were specifically looking for, and they were rare. They were really, really rare to see. And once you had them, well, sometimes you even had to buy the base, and then you had to farm the runes, and then equip it. But this type of progression that you're not specifically looking for a set item or a specific legendary for you or your follower, but actually first need to find the base. To me, that's a cool thing. Yes, PoE does the same thing a bit more crazily. Like they have like an entire system around that one where you need to find like white items can have a specific influence from a specific boss, and that means they have like a specific way to roll primary affixes, and you can merge influences together into like a two influenced item, and then you have a bigger affix pool and so on, so you can like truly like create your own items that are very specific for your own niche build, that only works for your build. And I think that's very cool. Obviously, Path of Exile does it very, very in depth. Like you can invest thousands of hours and still don't really understand what's happening. It doesn't need to be like this. Like PoE, already a bit too much for me. But the general concept of like looting raw diamonds that you're looking for and working on them is a very strong fantasy to me.
Yeah, so I definitely agree that crafting should have a larger role in Diablo 4 than it does in Diablo 3. It doesn't have much, right? You make a Captain Crimson set, you make a Kain set, and that's the end of your crafting. And it doesn't even
Mm.
matter half the time if any of it's good, as long as you get the power and you throw it on. That's good enough. Another thing that happens to me like a month into the season when people are watching my stream. We're doing rat runs, right? We're just destroying them, gaining experience. And people ask me, Rax, why don't you pick up the items? Why don't you spend your blood shards? And I go, I will answer that question with a question. Why would I pick them up? Why would I spend the blood shards? Why would I do it? Wait,
No,
for what
no.
reason? And what you're suggesting is going to kind of solve that in a way, right? Because you gotta essentially pay attention to the loot. I would love it if the loot doesn't rain from the sky, if you don't get as many drops, and anything in like the end game could potentially be valuable. The white items drop, it's like, all right, is this a stiletto with good quality, with attack speed on it, with angelic power on it? Because I need one of those, and I'm willing to trade for one of those, and I could craft something amazing with these mats that I've been farming. Um, I think that would make the game a lot better. One thing for me in itemization, and I know we've talked about this before, you haven't played much, if any, World of Warcraft, right?
Never have I ever.
Okay, never have I ever. World of Warcraft, to me, out of any game I've ever played, probably had the best way, in my opinion, for my playstyle, had one of the best ways to acquire items, at least back in the day. I have not played World of Warcraft in the last 7 years, so I couldn't tell you anything about the changes. But I'm talking in like maybe not even vanilla, but like Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King. They have these raids that you have to do, and they're hard. They're hard. And the farther you get into the raid, these bosses drop better and better loot. And the loot there is, well, it's hard to acquire because it's hard just to kill the damn boss. And they don't drop that many items when you kill them. They drop like 4 items for 25 people, and you can only kill them once a week. Now, I'm not saying that you should be locked out for a week or anything like that, but what I am saying is the best items in the game you had to really work for. You had to be committed to it. If if you and I make a D4 planner of Diablo 4 of the best items, and it's a mix and match of crafting these crazy yellow item or whatever, with crafting these crazy items from the white items we find, and like these endgame legendaries that drop from Lilith, if we are able to acquire them very, very quickly, I'm going to be very, very disappointed. I want it to be very, very challenging and time consuming to make a perfect build. I can make a full God DH in like, from starting with nothing in a brand new season in like 6 hours. And then it's just augments and paragon levels from there, pretty much. I really, really, really hope it's completely different in Diablo 4, because I want to invest my time to make the perfect character and feel like I've made a tremendous accomplishment when I get there.
I understand what you're saying. Yes.
All right, now let's actually get into the blog post itself. We got past the two intros. All right, the new skill system. Yeah, and just to be clear, guys, we're live with sVr. You're seeing all the shout outs in chat. Make sure you go follow sVr. He's one of the best players in the world. All right, new skill system. As Luis mentioned, we have made some major changes to Diablo 4's skills and talent system. We've been reading through a lot of the comments from the community and agree that the talent system needs more depth. I think they called it the talent twig at BlizzCon, or at least that's what the feedback was.
Yep, that was the feedback.
Similarly, the skill system progression felt too simple, which created issues where a player would have no meaningful reason to spend their skill points. With this valuable feedback in mind, we've been iterating on a new skill system. As you can see from the screenshot below, we have separate sections for skills and passives in our freshly painted skill tree. Take a look. Can I make this bigger? Yes, I can.
Oh, actually, it's a skill tree.
It's actually a tree.
It's very literal, yeah.
Where do we start?
I think you start in the center, like before the roots and before the extremities. I'm not sure what it's called in American language.
Yeah, branches or whatever.
Yeah, before the branches, like somewhere in the center where it's glowing.
Here? So I mean,
like there. I think that's where you start.
Uh,
I mean, just judging from Diablo 3, I would say the bottom are passives and the top are actives.
That's exactly what I was thinking. These are passives. These are the active skills, and you can go. You get like passive points and skill points, so you're going to be going up and down simultaneously. Is that what's happening here?
That's what it looks like. Yeah. First thing that I noticed is I think so this is strictly acyclic. You cannot build a circle or something. Like it doesn't matter how you can't find a shorter path essentially to a skill. That's what I'm trying to say. That's interesting. So you don't need to worry really about pathing. If you want to go to this node, there's only one way to this node. There isn't like a more optimal way to find. This is something that, for instance, very often happens in Wilson, right? When you're like, is there a shorter way with less points to achieve what I wanted to achieve? You have the same thing in PoE. Doesn't seem like it will be of concern in here. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And now that I'm looking closer, if I zoom in, it looks like there are passive points you can get in the active skill tree if you go far enough right here. Unless I'm misinterpreting this. Like this passive might be super godly. Which is a cool idea to actually mix if I'm interpreting it correctly. And I
also think each branch is kind of one element, right? Like for instance, bottom right hand side, it's a cold branch, right? Bottom right hand side, it's a cold branch. Above it is a lightning branch. Above that one is a fire branch. So each branch has its own specific element, I suppose.
And that to me makes sense. I'm good with that. This is the super cold branch. It's got 4 of them and 2 passives. So it'll be interesting to calculate whatever the max level is. If it's 70 or whatever, this could be very interesting. The thing that will be hard to do probably from a design perspective is how to not make one branch for one element just super good, right? Like, okay, well, I have to take this whole branch every time. If that happens, then it again takes away a lot of the choice. If this branch is just godly and these passives are mandatory for cold, for example, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decisions that I really didn't actually make. What do you think is going to be the feasibility of having like a dual element build? Because that's not really much of a thing in Diablo 3, and really,
There's only Archon Wizard, right? But that's due to like Archon Chantora has like a dual element build. But that's due to gimped mechanics. Huh?
yeah.
It's not really because there's an advantage to playing dual element. Yeah, we haven't seen a multi-element, like a true multi-element build in D3 too much. There's like generator monk where you play like multiple COE cycles in DPS with multiple different generators, right? You have like a cold generator and then a lightning generator, right? And sometimes you played even 3 generators, but that was just the main idea was not there was a benefit to playing multiple elements. The main idea was using your COE as good as possible, right? There was no advantage to actually playing multiple elements. The advantage was only I want to utilize COE as good as I can. That's it. So personally, I'm always up to see dual element builds. I know Diablo 2 had dual element builds because some monsters had full immunity against certain elements, right? You were able to brick the immunity via vengeance, but very often you need to play cold and fire, for instance, to make sure that you can clear the entire game. I'm personally up for it as long as it's not too large of a penalty to go dual element. I'm up for it, but I like the concept of specialization, going one entire way of selecting one element. I personally like that one, so I'm good. I mean, how do you feel about that one? Do you always want to play like dual or triple element stuff?
So as far as which do I want to play, I'm okay with going either way. But as I look deeper into this talent tree, for example, let me give you 2 examples. Here, you have to pick what looks like a cold skill, or what is this? Is this lightning? What is this? Lightning?
I think that's lightning. Oh,
Okay.
that should be cold. I don't know. It's hard to say.
We'll,
It's
we'll
either
call,
cold or lightning.
we'll call purple lightning, we'll call blue cold. So if this is lightning, you have to take a lightning skill to go cold. And here, look at this tree. Fire, fire, cold, lightning? Lightning?
Sure.
So the thing that I think really, really makes that not much of an option in Diablo 3 is actually stats on items like cold elemental damage. So even if you wanted to play like a dual element build, it's the cold and fire elemental rolls are almost always on the same things, right? And you can't have both of the rolls.
I know. I'm so happy that you mentioned that one because we got the new SOJ and you can work around it nowadays with the latest patch. Just saying. It's
Yes.
just nobody has done it yet. But technically, they solved it now for the current, like 7 years too late, I guess. But they solved it. It's never too late, right? But I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, so
Do you like the tree visually?
um
So,
so
I think it's not overwhelming just looking at it. Do you feel like it's complex? So it's more complex than D2. 100%, right? This is more complex than D2.
the thing that I would offer about it artistically is I think it's very, very difficult to see the paths. Like
Very true.
like I
Yes.
it's very hard to see that, like, here. Hold on a second. If I go like this, copy, and I go paint, and I go here. So what this tree actually looks like from like a player's perspective is like this. This is what the tree actually looks like. but it's very hard for me to determine this with the way that this tree is designed. And I think it's going to be maybe a bit overwhelming for new players. If you and I sit in a D3 planner all day long, we're going to figure this out, right? And we're going to know it front and back and know everything about it. But for a new player, artistically it looks good, but I don't know how easy it is for them to determine, which way am I going here?
Are you sure that the one, like, you have a circle now on the top left-hand side? Are you sure that's correct? Because the way they built this, I think they wanted to make sure there are no circles.
A circle in the top. Oh,
Yeah, you have this.
Oh, you mean like here?
Yes, there's a circle, right? Like you can yes. Are you sure this is correctly connected?
I'm not sure of anything, Matt, in my life.
I know. No, don't brick it. It's all good.
Is it like that? See, I see. I mean, I don't know. And another question is, let's say it is, right? Let's say you can do this. Here's a question: can you go this way?
Yes, exactly.
If you take this path, which my drawing is impossible to follow now, can you now go this way and go back and pick this up?
Exactly. So that's what I meant earlier with, if you do the right-hand side, then you have a shortcut, right? Like, it's faster to path over the right-hand side, not taking the red route, right?
Yeah.
Which means you need to consider pathing on a tree, because there's not a straightforward way to get to a node. There are multiple ways to a node, which means while planning, you can have a suboptimal tree, meaning you can use less points for the same tree, because like this you can build redundancy. And this is one of the things that is super complicated in Path of Exile, especially for newer players, where experienced players look at a tree and they say like, yeah, I can make like 3 changes. You will save 5 skill points and you will have the same tree. And that is something that is very, it feels like solving, I don't know, like an
optimization problem.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And a lot of people dislike that one in the game, where you need to sit down and suddenly it's like, I need to build a minimum spamming tree in a graph with, blah, blah, blah circles in it. That's not fun. There are algorithms that do it for you, but, it's a game. Come on. So I'm okay if they want to simplify it. If the tree is by definition acyclic, you cannot do a circle in there, which means there's always only one way to get a node to a node. I'm okay with it. If they want to make it more complex, then go ahead. I'm also okay with that one. But I feel like a lot of people will feel discouraged when other players look at your tree and you're like, dude, there are like 5 optimizations I can do with one click.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely in favor of not having the circles or the overlaps, that you make your decision and go forward with it. So I'm on board with you there. Another thing about the actual look of the tree, 2 potential solutions regarding figuring out where the pathing is. One thing is in the actual game mode, maybe when you so this is like an artistic drawing, right? But maybe when you're actually in the game, it will show you the paths, like with little golden paths that I drew, so it's a little bit more obvious. Anything that they can do to make this interface with this tree easy for people to understand, I would be in favor for. And another thing that they could do is they could just widen out the branches, right? If this branch was maybe coming down a little bit and they spread it out, just in some places, like right here, for example, it is just not clear. It's really not clear to me how I guess you go up this way because it's red and red, but this looks like it goes through exactly the same node. So it's going to be very confusing to me unless they somehow do something to make it obvious how I even can build this.
I think on the section that you just highlighted, where you're not certain whether or not this is a path, if you zoom in, the one branch is behind the other branch, so I don't think you can make a connection there.
Yeah, and that could be it as well.
Yeah, that's a perspective thing, I think. But strictly speaking, those branches are not connecting.
So here, does it connect from here, or does it connect from like this? I guess it connects from the red one, right?
say as well. All right.
What do you think these are? These open things like placeholders, or are these things that you choose what power you want, or have they just not put skills here? What are these open things?
I'm sure the answer will be in the text.
I'm sure the answer will be in the text. Okay, let's do that.
Which means I have no clue, but let's see.
We probably.
It's a Sorceress skill tree. Haha.
Yes.
It says the Sorceress skill tree. Okay.
The branches contain skills and skill upgrades, while the roots contain. We probably should have read this first. Order of operations important in life.
Yes.
Okay. The upper skills section is where you will spend the skill points that you earn by leveling up. Here you will unlock brand new skills and unlock additional functionality for these skills, and unlock passive points that you can spend in the lower passive section of the tree. Charge bolts. Releases 6 bolts of lightning. So the... Okay, let me read this again. So am I correct in understanding I will not have charged bolts unless I pick this up? Like I don't get it at all? Or does this just empower my charged bolts?
It's a good question. I am not certain.
Where you unlock brand new skills. Makes me think I don't get charged bolts unless I go this route.
It also says unlock additional functionality. Maybe you already implicitly own charge bolts.
So that's going to be an interesting question for... Are there some basic skills that you always have, and the brand new skills you unlock are like the devastating major ones? Yeah, it's interesting. I never considered... I guess that's the way it is in Diablo 2, right? Unless you get an item that gives you a skill that you haven't picked up already, like +1 to that skill, or it gives you actual charges of that skill, you don't have that skill until you pick it. So I mean, it has been done before, but in Diablo 3 it's completely different. You have every skill in rune, and then everything comes from items. Ball lightning.
That's a new one. We haven't seen that one in the Diablo BlizzCon build. That's a new one.
Yep.
Ball lightning.
Ball of lightning that slowly moves forward, zapping enemies.
Yeah, we have that in D3 essentially on the Demon Hunter class. Especially when you equip the quiver, so it's very slow.
Meticulous bolts. You can spend skill points on square nodes to unlock new active skills. Okay, let's go back. These are the new active skills. Okay.
Okay. So they are new unlock. Okay.
So
I see.
Oh, I see what's happening here. You unlock the skill, and then you unlock enhancements for it.
Okay.
Get like Ice Lance, enhance Ice Lance, enhance Ice Lance. You get Electric Arrow, and then down here is the extra power for Electric Arrow. You unlock Fireball, and then you're screwed. You get nothing else for Fireball. That's all you get.
And I think the little red ones that we noticed, right? So you need to select them at the top. When you select them at the top, you can spend them on the bottom. That's how I feel. Like you're trading a skill point at the top for a passive point at the bottom. That's how I feel.
So you don't think they're going to be unique? You don't think they're going to be separate skill points, like skill points and passive points, and you spend them?
The way I really understand is like you select them at the top, and then you can spend them on the bottom. That's how I understand it right now. Unclear really from the text, but that's how I imagine it right now, which is kind of like, I like that system because that actually means so you can decide how many passive points you pick. Like you decide on your tree how much you want to invest in passive points.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, that would be cool. Maybe some builds would benefit from just taking all the passives, and some builds benefit from taking 5 incredible skills.
Okay, according to PaintShop, it is said that you unlock them at the top and spend them at the bottom. All right. So it says it somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, and the circles are the upgrade nodes. Collapses into crackling energy. So yeah, this is something that I really am in favor for for Diablo 4. I would really, really like if the tooltips said exactly what it did. So here's a good like dichotomy here. Collapses into crackling energy at the end of its path. Sounds really cool, but does not tell me what it does. But here, crackling energy gives you 25 mana when you move near it. So if I'm understanding this correctly, crackling energy, when I shoot a ball lightning and it explodes at the end, I can run into the explosion and get 25 mana back. Again, when you move near it, I would love it if it said like within 5 yards or whatever it says. I'm a huge fan of tooltips that actually tell you exactly what it does. Maybe that's very annoying for some players and it takes away from the fantasy of everything, and maybe that's a reason not to do it, but I'm a huge fan of, like, for example, Pig Sticker says squeal.
Yes.
Like,
Remember what Storm Gauntlet said in his first PTR patch?
I
Makes you
don't.
tougher but slower. That was it.
Is that actually what it said?
Yeah. It was more like a flavor text than an actual mechanic that was described. It was the first version of Storm Gauntlet on its first PTR.
And if they'd like to keep both, I really like, they can keep the fantasy of it, right, by explaining it here. But please tell me exactly what it does, please.
I mean, yeah, Diablo 4 is using like this keyword or tagging system essentially, where we already had it in the BlizzCon build, where there was, for instance, blah 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 skill has crushing blow, and then crushing blow is highlighted, and if you hovered over crushing blow, there would be like a tool to pop up that would explain what crushing blow actually is as a mechanic. And it would also be with other stuff. There were like many of these. So yeah, there's a specific, I don't want to say glossary, something like a tag or naming system of specific mechanics, and if you hover over them, you'll see what it means to say something is crushing blow or something is immune, and so on and so on. So there are specific keywords, and I guess crackling, what was it, crackling energy?
Yeah.
Crackling energy is one of these, I guess. So this is a common pattern that you will see.
Okay, so you're saying like they had stuff that you could mouse over and it has advanced tooltips for it?
Yeah, for certain keywords, yes, exactly.
Okay, so
like
that
if something has a specific mechanic, then this mechanic is a tag word, and if you hover over the tag word, you will see this pop up.
so that's a perfect.
So you will
perfect
not
solution.
see something like squeal.
Okay.
Yes.
Squeal is okay. Just let me mouse over it and tell me what it
Yes,
does.
exactly. If multiple items have squeal and all of them are tagged, it's all good.
So we were right. Yeah, here are the passive points in the skill tree. So are these different only in? Let me see here. So wait a minute. Are there different kinds of passives? Because look, these are all like full like rubies. But if I go up here, this is an empty ruby, this is a full ruby, and this is like a half ruby.
So I think actually that the ones that are light, it's actually selected. Like where the red glow and the red light is on the tree, that is actually skill pointed and used for the player right now.
Oh.
So this tree is nearly fully skilled right now, what you see.
Why are these two blank then?
That's a very good question that I cannot answer.
Well, we could throw that theory out the
window. Very good point. Moving on.
Okay. Good enough for me.
Scroll down on the bottom right. It says alpha.
Okay. Yeah, they're different. Okay.
They're different for some reason.
You can spend
what is this? Overcharge.
So you can spend passive points in roots of the tree to unlock powerful effects. What's this? Was that in the tree? Oh yeah, what's this? Wait a minute. What's this? Can I scroll down? My webcam's going to cover it up. What are these?
Oh shit! I didn't even see them.
Me neither. There's like. Wait a minute. Let's go back.
Okay, that's like specializations of passives, I guess.
So you get it, and there's different ranks of the passive that you can power them up with. Now that's cool. That's a good idea. It's a good idea to make the passive tree a little bit more complicated, but also in a simple way that people will understand, and it just gives you more choices with your runes. Like, okay, you got this great passive. How great is this passive to you? Do you take all 3 of them to fully juice it up, but then you might miss out on getting this end passive? But I mean, how important is this passive to you? That's actually pretty damn cool. I don't like this. Which one does this attach to? The branch attaches to the middle of these two. Which passive does this attach to?
Visual clarity.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm assuming it's this one, since this one already has 3.
Yeah, but conceptually, I like the idea. So you can put multiple points into specializations of passives. That's cool.
I didn't even notice that the first time.
Yep, that's very, very hard to see.
Is there more? There's more stuff.
Is there more
here?
hidden? Is there like more?
What
There's
else
like
did
some
we miss?
empty circles, empty squares, and that's about it.
Okay.
Is there any other hidden gems? Where's Waldo? Yes.
Skill tree you see above consists of many specific nodes, a sample of which you can see in the screenshots above. If we imagine every single node on that massive skill tree affecting different skills in different ways, the path that you decide to take will determine big power increases and playstyle choices. The passive part of this system is where you will find more general upgrades to your character. These effects are not specific to particular skills, therefore the skill tree will have a good mix of all types of different choices for players to make. One last thing we want to point out is that players will not be able to acquire every skill tree node.
Hell yeah.
I definitely think that's the way to go.
Yes, that's the way to go.
You have 40% of the nodes filled for endgame. So that even seems like a lot, doesn't it? Because if we look at the tree, let's pretend you were going to be cold. Okay, so 40% here, 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 here. That's like 40. That's less than 40%. I can take
but
every
maybe
cold
you
thing.
can. Yeah, maybe you can click certain passives multiple times to upgrade them.
Yeah.
Like you could have the choice between putting 2 points into, let's say, Frostbolt, or click Frostbolt once and additionally do something else. Like maybe it's only a traveling node on your way, right?
Yeah.
Could also be the case. So no, I think 40%. Like if you spread it all the way, then you're like a jack of all trades without actually being good at anything. But you can do everything. I think that's fair enough. And if people want to like all eggs in one basket skill, let's go. Then they should be capable of doing so. No, I think 30 to 40% sounds good to me. I'm very happy that they changed their stance on it. Like if you remember at BlizzCon, the statement was, yeah, at some point you will have all skills maxed. It's like, okay, so what about the order in which I pick skills? That doesn't matter, right? Like, what the heck? Like, I level with my character, and it does not matter what I actually select, because at some point, if I invest enough time, I have everything maxed out, right? Like, how is that a good system? So I'm very happy that they actually decided against it. In Diablo 3, obviously, like, it makes sense, because you don't have choices, you just unlock stuff, and at some point you're 70, you have everything, and then you just select what you want, right? But giving us the pseudo choice of selecting something, but it's inconsequential in the long run, is stupid. Like, I don't like that system. It's like giving you a pseudo choice, right? You don't really have a choice, because at some point it's inconsequential anyways. So I'm very happy that they understood this point, and they just straight up changed it. I think it takes a lot of guts to do so, so that was my weird way of applauding. Just saying, my weird way of being very happy about this change.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Diablo 3 that gives you everything for free is not the answer, and I think old school Diablo 2 where you have to build stuff and there is absolutely no way at all to go back essentially is instead of starting a new character is also not the way. I think this strikes a good balance, and I think as you said the most fundamental thing is it gives players a meaningful choice, and you've got to make some decisions that are actually going to matter, and
Yes, decisions that matter. Yes, that's a perfect way of saying it.
you will
That's very important.
you will feel amazing when you get it right, and you will feel it when you get it wrong, and it will motivate you to do your research or to try something different, and that in my opinion will probably extend the longevity of the game.
Yes. Like I feel the same way, even though like this is a discussion I had with Riker a couple of days ago, was in a modern game, let's say Diablo 4, um, should you, if you're deciding to go into one direction, like and if you feel like you're way over your head, should you still succeed? And my answer was heck no.
Yeah.
Like you should not just randomly succeed. If you expect to randomly succeed with stuff like this, you should go and play Candy Crush. That was my statement. I have no clue what Candy Crush is, and I've never played it. If it's a competitive game, then I apologize. But you understand where I'm coming from, right?
I'll tell you along those lines what I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll tell you anyway. What I used to say to people at Halo tournaments when I'd beat
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
they'd be really mad. You go
yeah.
over and you slap them on the shoulder and you say, "Hey man, I've got a game suggestion for you. Mario Kart. It's got colors, it's got bananas, it's got shells. You're gonna love it. I think it's more your speed." The funny thing is, actually, competitive Mario Kart is actually very, very high skill
It's
cap.
cutthroat, right?
It's pretty cutthroat, but when you tell them about the colors and the bananas, it really deflates their morale.
Wow,
Pretty,
you were a good opponent back in the day, so I can see.
that was a savage. So I'll tell you, Matt. Overall, I think I mean, obviously there are a couple of things here that can be clarified and a few things that can be done better. But overall, I just think this is such a tremendous improvement from what they had before, and I think that they have really listened to feedback and have shown a willingness to go away from maybe some things that they were really convicted on, and I think the result is I'm very pleased to see this. How do you feel about it?
I mean, like this is something that has worth the name of skill tree, right? It actually deserves the name skill tree, without a question. Like the talent twigs or skill twigs or whatever we had at BlizzCon, fair enough. It was a meme name from the community, but in every meme there's like some small glimpse of truth in there, right? So them going ahead and actually changing it into a real tree, I'm very happy. There will always be, tinfoil hat on conspiracy theorists. They specifically showed this on BlizzCon to lowball us into lower expectations, so now we cheer them on, right? Blah 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 blah. I entirely don't think that's what happened. Um, so I'm very pleased with what we see. I'm very pleased with them backpedaling. I'm not sure if we haven't continued to read. I'm not sure if talents are still there because talents were something else. They were kind of like passives. So I believe the passives at the bottom are now the new talents. But overall, I'm very happy.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I didn't hear any of those conspiracy theories, but I can tell you there's no way that Blizzard or really any company is never going to deliver like a keynote or whatever and purposely sabotage how the
Yeah.
public eye views their product. That's
Hence tinfoil hats.
certainly not a thing. All right. You ready for another topic?
Let's go.
The enchantment system. Many of you might remember the barbarian's unique arsenal system. Let's click it just to make sure we remember. Holy shit, it's a whole blog. That's where you change stances or something, or am I thinking? I might be thinking of. Where's the arsenal system? It's like the
I
different
think
system.
you scrolled past.
I scrolled past it.
Up. the talent tree thingy, this one. Right?
Okay.
The arsenal system.
Each class has a dedicated tree. Swap between them. Here it is. With the arsenal system, barbarians can swap between different types of weapons, such as heavy two-handed and agile hand axes, depending on the situation. So yeah, it's the whole concept of switching between different things, like the druids, like shape shifting. It's a bear, and then it's a werewolf. So it's the whole concept of switching, right? So it's their ability to carry and smoothly swap between multiple deadly weapons. Oh, it just told us. God, we should read more and guess less, which greatly increased their power. We've also been exploring unique class mechanics for other classes. The main goal for us here is to have a very unique class-specific mechanics in Diablo 4.
Okay, that's cool.
We have this goal because Diablo is the kind of game where many players try out different builds or classes, especially during seasonal play. We believe that unique class mechanics with very different strengths and playstyles compared to other classes will make exploring the different classes and playing the game much more fun. For the Sorceress, we've been trying out the enchantment system. This is how it works. Let's see here. Ball lightning. Conjure a ball of lightning that zaps enemies for damage. Enchant slot effect. When crackling energy would form, ball lightning is formed instead. That would be a really cool way for all the ways to make crackling energy to get your mana back. Instead, it just starts shooting more ball lightnings. Ball lightning no longer collapses into crackling energy. I was going to say, they said earlier, ball lightning collapses into crackling energy. How are they going to prevent it from multiplying everywhere? And they solved it before I could even tell. They solved their problem before I could even tell them it was a problem. That's pretty cool. So you get your whole build based upon summoning crackling energy with different skills, and then then you just shoot ball lightnings everywhere. So unlike other classes, each sorceress skill has 2 possible effects. Let's read it, and then let's analyze it, because that's snake bit us in the past. Sorceress skills can be placed into 2 locations: an active skill slot that every other class has access to, and an enchantment slot. If you place a skill in the enchantment slot, you can no longer use it as an active skill. Your character instead gains a secondary bonus power. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. I understand now. So, this is what ball lightning does for a sorceress if you take this skill. If you instead choose to put it in the enchantment slot, it does this instead.
I see. So meaning when you have a different source of creating crackling energies, they will afterwards create a ball lightning for you.
Right. So you have 2 choices as a wizard. You can either shoot ball lightnings, or if you have made your build and completed it to where you're summoning crackling energies all over the screen, you can move it to its enchantment slot, and it changes to this.
I wonder what kind of enchantments we can see then. It's a weird way of calling it enchantment. I would just call it passive, I guess. It's like essentially passive.
Yeah, an enchantment usually means you take something and you change it. And I guess, well, is it an enchantment now that I think about it? An enchantment, at least in the games that I've played, has never erased its original form. It's only added something to it. When you change a skill, I would call it maybe a transformation or something. That's an interesting name for it, enchantment. The power, let's see what this says. Ball lightning as an enchantment. You can gain the secondary effect of a skill by placing it. Okay. The power you gain from enchantments is extremely significant. You can currently make builds based around your enchantments, your active skills, or a mix of both. So here, it looks like the sorceress is, or the wizard, whatever it is casting the meteor on the monsters. And over here, they're attacking with a wand and meteors are just shooting randomly. Meteor allows you to call a fiery chunk of rock from the sky. If you choose to slot it, you won't be able to control your meteors. They'll fall onto enemies periodically. The skill is still under development and may be different in the final game.
Oh, welcome to Ed Sigil.
Et Sigil, first item in D4 confirmed. Morph it. That's a good name for it. Morph it. We've been testing this class mechanic for a while now, and the team feedback has been really positive. This new system now empowers you to make some interesting choices to strategize around which skills you would want to slot in as an enchantment, as you won't be able to put one skill in both places. We're also exploring a druid-specific class mechanic as well. We'll have more information on that to share in the future. Okay, so Matt, how do you feel? You're the sVr wizard main, and we're hearing about sorceresses are going to have two different forms of their active skills, it looks like, that you can change between. What's your initial reaction to this system? Does this look like something that's going to be fun to play? Does it complicate the game in an interesting and fun way? Or is this something you're going to have to test to make a decision on it?
I mean, the way I see it with Ball Lightning right now, if there are a lot of like cross mechanics, like in this case, we've seen a cross mechanic, right? Where there's like a crackling energy can make your ball lightnings disappear or like collapse into crackling energies. It was like a skill tree choice that we had, right? And now here's the reverse way of doing it, where they cannot collapse anymore. So if you use the passive, it doesn't function anymore. But if you have a different way of creating crackling energies, you can create ball lightnings from it. I think it's a very, very, very cool way. If all enchantments are like this, right, where there are like some cross-site mechanics over different tags, then I'm all up for it, right? There's like some cool interactions that you can build around with specifically enchanting certain abilities. Very cool. Totally up for it. If it's just Meteor is the following way, like you cast Meteor and a meteor appears on a spot and it kills everything. And if you use the enchantment, Meteor now happens randomly. That's not cool. That is not a worthwhile enchantment to me. No matter how hard that meteor hits, that's stupid. Because it doesn't really change how I play. It's just a random effect that appears somewhere around me at some point. If it actually has like some mechanics behind it, you need to play and think about it. I also like enchantments that can totally brick your character. Like you equip this enchantment and your character doesn't function anymore because it does something like you now have 1 health, but you're incredibly tanky when you do the following. I don't know. Or while you move, you only have 1 health. Stupid shit like this. I love it. Stuff where you need to build around. Stuff like enchantments that are so ridiculous that they completely like transform how you perceive your own build. And unless you are prepared for it, you're bricking it. Let's go.
Yeah, so I agree. In general, the between these two ideas, right? Between the skill tree and between this idea of enchantments and the other specific class mechanics they're going to build in Diablo 4 from BlizzCon, the number one thing I think most people said and felt that it needed was more depth. It looked way too simple. It looked like an unfinished idea. But I think these two things, this skill tree and the passives and the different ways that you can allocate them and not getting all of them, and the way that they've designed it and they've complicated it more in a good way, in addition to committing to making different systems for the different classes and demonstrating that there are cool ideas that can actually change how you play the game. And I think this just really, I think about it from a content creator perspective. There are so many different cool things you could do in the game now if they get the itemization right, if they get the item progression right, if they have a lot of things to do in the game. And there's a whole other thing to consider, Matt, is there's going to be PvP in this game, right? And
Sure.
what if other people's crackling energies in PvP start summoning ball lightnings? I mean, everybody, maybe you could go with a support build that makes crackling energy everywhere, and just so you deal massive damage. But I think that they have managed to add a lot of depth in this game just with these two updates, and just even announcing that they're coming or what they're working on. And to me, it's making me a lot more excited for the game and shows me that their designers are doing good work over there.
I agree. And what a question. The ship is sailing in the right direction with what we've read today.
I would say out of all the blog posts, Matt, I would say this has been, we got one more
Yeah.
section. This has been by far the best one.
Yeah,
Not ju-
there's actually some true substance in there. That's how it feels. Not saying that how do we look at the screen, where the UI placed is not informative, but it doesn't change how I perceive the game, right? And it's not something that I want to know at this point. So that's in regards to one of the previous blog posts. This one, at least to me, it has some true substance, and I'm very thankful for that one. It was something that at least skill trees was very, very important at this point. And seeing the progress, because quite literally, this would have probably something that we would have play tested in like 2.5 months from now on BlizzCon. If BlizzCon would have happened, this would have been something that we would have tested, I suppose.
just like you said, I just want to give Blizzard big props. They've given us some real content here, and they have. I've been very happy to read through this. This looks is so much better. It's just a big improvement.
Big indeed.
Very meaningful. And another thing is, like, sometimes people can release things, right, and then like people will have like varying opinions on everything. Like, some people will like it, some people won't. I think by far the vast majority of people are going to be really happy to read through this, and I think it's really going to renew their faith in Diablo 4 a lot if things continue in this direction. All right, last section, endgame progression system. Lastly, we have been hard at work on our endgame character progression system. This important feature is going to take a little more time. It won't be in the next blog. Now, let me just stop there. I am so fine with this. Not only the idea of it, but then saying it. If they're saying this probably matters to me. I'm not a normal player. This matters to me more than anything. Probably more than anything to me. I am so content and fine with Blizzard saying we're working on it, it's important, and it's going to take time, and we don't have an update for you. Take your time and build something like this, and take the feedback and make it really good. Please take your time. Tell us straight up, we're not gonna we haven't figured it out yet, but we're working on it. I'm okay with that. Then giving me just a kind of a mediocre blog about it that I'm not going to be excited for. I strongly prefer this. But we wanted to mention it here because it will be the other significant source of power that comes from your class. The system is intended to provide more depth and replayability than what the Paragon currently offers in Diablo 3. We and many Blizzard gamers have talked about the concept of easy to learn, difficult to master. We believe that the endgame progression system is where the difficult to master component will come in and should meet the expectations of the most hardcore Diablo players out there.
All right. Big words. Big words. I like it. I like it.
You and I are going to be very fond of that.
Yes.
Let's finish the paragraph and then let's talk about it. We're excited to read through the feedback from the community regarding our revamped skill and talent system as well as the new Sorceress enchantment system. We are always reading through the comments on the forums, Reddit, social media, and more for your feedback. As always, please remember that none of this is final and the game is still actively in development. Your social discussion around the features of Diablo 4. We greatly appreciate it next quarter. Okay, so this is pretty much it. So this is it. All right, you go first, Matt. Tell me the things.
So Paragon, huh? So Paragon was a big topic at BlizzCon last year, especially on, let's say, when we were meeting in persona and like grabbing some food, or being on like a community night out. Paragon was a very common topic, and I asked that specific question in the media Q&A, the official media Q&A. Funny enough, so the way you must imagine, or should imagine, this is like 3 people from Blizzard sitting on a table at a table, and they're having like microphones in front of them, and then there's a room full of journalists asking questions, right? Funny enough, yeah, there were some like big companies there, like PC gamers and blah blah blah, right? So some journalistic companies that actually, do write articles, right? But nearly all the questions, all the good and in-depth questions, and like 80% of the discussion was led by YouTubers and Twitch people. It was people from Power of Exile and people from the Diablo community that carried most of the conversation and had most questions. I was very surprised at that one. I was initially thinking when you go into media Q&A that it's a lot more etiquette and it's mostly like media companies having the questions, but in reality it was actually us. So that was interesting to see. And I specifically had the question about Paragon. I asked Joey Shelley specifically whether or not we will have a system in Diablo 4 where there is some kind of incremental gain that you get each time you play. Because this is exactly what Paragon is, right? Paragon is just every single time you log in and you play and you've done something for 2 hours and you log out, but you haven't found an upgrade, you still get something. And that is why we got Paragon, right? Because back in the times of the auction house, you just bought the gear that you wanted on the auction house, and then you played for 4 hours, and you got jack shit. You got nothing, because the only thing that you could get as an upgrade would yet again be from the auction house, and that was it. So there was nothing for you to reach. Once you actually killed Diablo, once you finished the game on Inferno, you were done for, and any hour that you invested was pointless. And hence we got this incremental gain over time. Each time you would play, you would get at least something. And my question was specifically about that one. Will we have a system, not maybe called Paragon, but a system where when you spend time, there is a guaranteed incremental gain that will always happen? And the answer that he stated is yes, you'll have this one in Diablo 4 as well. And the next question was whether or not he's aware what happened in Diablo 3 with Paragon. And he said yes. They are aware of the Paragon issue where all that you maximize at some point is this incremental gain. Cannot guarantee the items, but you can always guarantee additional Paragon. And that's what players do, right? All we do is farm Paragon and maximize this incremental gain because it's better to do this than to roll the dice on items. And this was a discussion we had quite often. And they said the answer was there will be some system where you will continuously improve your character. And we hope that it will be more meaningful than what we did with Paragon and D3. Does that mean that this is like an outlook on endgame progression? We'll see. They mentioned Paragon in here. I felt like endgame systems would be rather perpendicular towards this incremental gain that you get. Maybe they go hand in hand, we'll see. But I'm happy the way they worded it is that it should be easy to learn and difficult to master, and that the endgame system is clearly for most of the hardcore players. And I think that's tailored towards you and me, and not tailored towards average Joe who's typing on Reddit every second day. At least that's what I hope. How do you feel about this? I mean, you see it in a similar way? Are you getting the same vibe from this paragraph?
So this is the most important topic to me, Matt.
Yes.
The thing for me is, I, I need something. I need something to do, right? Because I will decimate the campaign. I will fly through it, no matter how hard it is. Even if I have to make another tentacled demon hunter and pull Belial 1,000 times, like Inferno difficulty when Diablo 3 was released. Because I don't know if you knew this, but I don't know if you were there, but Belial was absolutely impossible to kill. Like, you couldn't even get to Act 3 Inferno because 99.9% of people couldn't kill Belial.
I managed. I managed Belial.
So you were there. Did you do it with
Yeah,
a
I managed Belial, but you know where I stopped?
where?
Before Sidea, the two towers. The two towers where you go downwards, right?
Yeah.
Where you have Blood Clan Impalers, Blood Clan Sorceress, and Vile Temptresses.
did you
3 times physical range damage.
were
That's
you
when I stopped.
were you playing Nether Tentacle Demon Hunter, or what were you playing?
Nope. I was playing Hydra Wizard, my friend.
Damn, you killed Belial with a Hydra Wizard?
Yes, I did.
Holy shit, that's a big achievement.
You just needed to dodge, man. Never get hit for forehead.
Yeah, and yeah, never get hit and hit him at 20,000 times.
Yeah, it was like easy peasy, like a 90 minutes fight or 2 hour fight, I think. I mean, it took me over a week. So yeah.
A week of pulling Belial, yeah, it was super hard. Um, so the thing about the Paragon system is a lot of people say, "Oh my God, Paragons have ruined Diablo 3." And it's like, all right, let's do a thought experiment here. Let's say we keep Diablo 3 and we keep the Paragon system. And the only thing that we change is every time past 800, instead of getting 5 main stat, you get 1. Just as an example. Now, how do you feel about the Paragon system? Well, it's no longer this gigantic multiplier for you, right, for your toughness and your damage that just completely overshadows everything else that you do, but you get something. And, you know, a player who's Paragon 3000 could definitely beat a player that's Paragon 4000 for rank 1. Couldn't they do it right now? Yes, you could do it right now. It's much more of a battle. But a lot of the casuals are like, well, I'm Paragon 1000 and the people on the leaderboards are Paragon 4000. I have absolutely no chance. Well, there's two schools of thought to think about that. It's like, well, first of all, if you don't put in, if you don't have a lot of time to commit to anything in life, forget Diablo, baking, playing the guitar, playing soccer. If you don't have a lot of time to dedicate, which is fine, if you have a wife and kids and you're a soccer coach and you have other commitments, that's fine, and Diablo is your hobby. But usually with anything in life, you can't be rank 1 in anything that you just kind of do as kind of a fun, relaxed hobby. So my first point is, well, if you're Paragon 1000, you probably shouldn't be rank 1, right? That shouldn't be a possibility. But at the same time, they shouldn't be 20,000 times stronger than you, so you have absolutely no hope of getting anywhere near them. So as far as building an endgame system that incrementally makes you stronger, that is not as strong as Paragon, I think is the right answer. You should get some benefit from logging on and advancing, but it shouldn't be as outrageously good as 5 main stat when you can blast rats and accumulate that so quickly that anyone who doesn't do that is 10,000 years behind everybody else. The thing about the endgame system, especially if they're tuning it toward the hardcore Diablo players, is I'm always in favor of making it more in-depth, more complicated, more difficult than most games like to go for. I think in general that benefits the community as a whole more than it doesn't, because when it's really easy, people just smash it and there's nothing to do. And this is a game where you're supposed to log in with your friends and slay demons and get stronger and keep being working toward goals. Well, the harder you make those goals to achieve, I mean, they shouldn't be impossible, but the more time it takes, the more preparation it takes, the more you have to learn about the game to get there, I think is, for the most part, a win for everybody. Yes, there are some people who are going to say, okay, I saw Rax and sVr pulling level 100 Lilith and it took them 100 tries and they finally got it down. I'll never be able to kill Lilith. This game sucks. Well, there are going to be some people who, in that scenario, where you aren't going to kill Lilith. But to me, that's part of the allure of the game. There are, like when I started playing Path of Exile and I was a noob, I would watch people with builds with these godly gear, godly items, pulling like the Uber Elder or the Uber Shaper or doing the Uber Lab. And I'm like, dude, I'm happy if I can kill a Quill Fiend without dying. And I have no idea how I'm ever going to get that gear or find people to play with or figure all this out. It's too complicated. But at the same time, it kind of motivated me. It's like a carrot on a stick dangling in front of me. It's like I want to be able to try to smash those bosses like those guys. So in general, with what they said here, there's a lot of words to say. I really hope it's difficult to master. I hope that starting out in the endgame system is available for everyone, and I hope it ramps up to where it's hard as hell, and you have to actually know what the hell you're doing to really finish it and reap the rewards there. I think that will be a benefit for all involved because I know you and I will be there. We'll be helping people. Maybe we'll even carry people through it. It'll be fun. But I like what I'm reading here, and I dislike when people just say, Paragon, lol, that's the worst idea ever. It's not that it's the worst idea ever. It's just that it's way too powerful in Diablo 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that was a good summary.
And it looks like that's pretty much the end of our blog. I didn't want it to end. This is where we break out the box of puffs with extra lotion to dry our tears. I don't know, man. What did you think? I thought that was the best blog we've ever been given.
Yeah, by far. By far.
Is it better than all the other blogs
Yes.
combined?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's significantly more than I expected. That maybe they have been lowballing us. Kick W.
Tinfoil hat?
Tinfoil hat on.
Conspiracy theories?
No, but it's a meaningful topic, and they lift up to what needs to be said in there. Like if they just quickly only show the surface of a skill tree, and it's like, all right, skill tree, blog post done. Then this would have been terrible. So we've seen a lot of substance. We've seen the new system, and they explained why they stepped back from the old one. Checked all my checkboxes. It's like identified the problem, which was community feedback. It's not in-depth enough. Presented a new system. It looks good. I like that each class has its own specific mechanic. Whether how much I like or dislike the wizard mechanic doesn't matter really. It's just cool that there is a very specific class specific mechanic. I'm up for it. Barbarian can dual wield, or quadruple wield technically speaking. Wizard can have like enchantments as skills, which is like 3 additional pseudo passives, I suppose. And I guess Druid will have shapeshifting to some extent, or some other skill specific or Druid specific mechanic. I'm happy. That's good to me. Skill tree is a true skill tree now. Can't complain about it not being a skill tree anymore. That's not a twig anymore. You actually have decisions to make. They dealt with the biggest problem that I had was you could eventually have all skills maxed. That was a terrible thing that I heard at BlizzCon, and I was very disheartened. And I stated that multiple times at BlizzCon, and I was not the only one. There were a lot of other content creators that spoke up about it being terrible, that at some point you have everything maxed out. And I'm very happy that they stepped away from that one. So overall, steps to the right direction. Very good blog post overall. Actual information, actual substance. I'm happy, man. I was ready to get disappointed.
We've been it's happened before, hasn't it?
It's called expectation management. It's a professional coping mechanism as a Twitch streamer.
Yeah, I had a gallon of Ben and Jerry's in the freezer ready to drown my sorrows.
Oh, is it time for the blog post again? Let me check if Ben and Jerry's is on sale. Yes.
Yeah, the one last, yes, I agree with everything you said. The one thing that I'll add, which has which flavor of Ben and Jerry? Cherry Garcia, of course. But the one thing that does impress me a little bit is, so BlizzCon, so they whatever, they have these blog posts where they initially introduced this, earlier this year, right? And in a pretty short amount of time, a handful of months, they were able to not only, release the blog post and then get our feedback and say, and get the feedback from BlizzCon and say, all right, so they don't like the direction we're going in, come up with a new direction, conceptualize it, kind of align it with their vision of Diablo 4, and then make this blog post in just a couple of months. It makes me think that, there are a good amount of people working on this and trying to, polish it. So I'm very happy with the timeline here. I wouldn't have expected such dramatic changes this early with a blog post that actually show us what they've done, and it makes me think they have a good amount of manpower here, because I'm impressed with what we've seen in such a short period of time. I don't know, man. That's all I had. Hey, any final thoughts here?
No final thoughts. I'm happy. I can go to sleep happily. It's getting late, so.
All right, everyone. Let me give a shout out to Mr. Matthew, aka sVr. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the best players. Go click that link and go throw him a follow. Everyone at sVr, and give him your happy emotes and say nice things about him before he goes to sleep. Matt, thank you so much for joining me, man, and I hope that we can collaborate more like this in the future.
I hope so too. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one.